Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I rise to join and to make a contribution with respect to the bill before us here today, it is, as usual, to bring it back into the context of the bill that is before us and to try and decipher through the ramblings that we just were subjected to. Because you see, the technique of just coming and throwing ramblings and what we've now realized, a regurgitation of newspaper reports.
Order 48-4, the member should not be referring to another member as rambling and so on. You can find a better term.
Okay, so I'll ask you, member, to find another word. Okay, because again, we're trying to cultivate a certain type of atmosphere in here.
The vacuous contribution. So, Madam Speaker, we're here this afternoon to deal with certain amendments being proposed to the Special Reserve Police Act and the Police Complaints Authority Act. Very simply, to start with, Madam Speaker, it is the prerogative of a government, whilst in power, to decide policy. And as I sat here and I listened, I wondered where those on the other side were when I remind the population, not only were they in government from 2010 to 2015, but they had a special majority as well and could have made the most wide-reaching amendments, repeals of law, bringing of new law, etc., without the need for an opposition support. Of course, that did not happen. So what we're here today to do is to make certain very focused, very purposeful amendments to two pieces of legislation. To dismiss with the first one, which is the Special Reserve Police Act. What we're seeking here to do is to close a lacuna, a gap in the law, and we start off with Clause 2 of this bill by saying that the Special Reserve Police, the SRPs as we currently know them, the regulations that are made under the Police Service Act are now expressly deemed to be applicable for SRPs. We heard absolutely no response to that, because it is necessary. Now, there was a lot of suggestion, Madam Speaker, that the PCA needed further powers. So I think it is quite apt to start by reminding the population of the existing powers of the PCA, the Police Complaints Authority. And I'd like to start at Section 19 of the Act, Madam Speaker, and through you, to remind the population that the PCA is an independent body. In fact, if we start at the preamble, to just bring this debate back into context, the preamble says that the PCA is an independent body to investigate criminal offenses involving police officers, police corruption, serious police misconduct, and for other related matters. Section 19 goes on, Madam Speaker, to say that the authority is not subject to the direction or control of any other person. So expressly in law, the PCA's independence is protected, and that is not to be underestimated. We then go to the functions of the PCA to just try and bring all of this back into context and for the population to understand through you, Madam Speaker, exactly what it is the PCA's functions are. The functions of the PCA, Madam Speaker, are firstly to investigate criminal offenses involving police officers, police corruption, and serious police misconduct. And one of the main pillars of the bill that we're here to debate today, and I'm sure to pass today, is to now throw that web, that net that the PCA has, also over Special Reserve Policemen and the municipal police. Because you see, the need to get the municipal police under the PCA is as a result of this government's policy of expanding the municipal police. because this government believes in the actions. And what we've done is we've expanded the municipal police in each of the 14 municipalities to allow better community policing. We're also cognizant that in doing so, you need to have them with some oversight. The body that the Parliament in 2006 decided an independent body to create is the PCA. The PCA's powers and functions. Back to that, Madam Speaker. The second thing is the PCA is to undertake inquiries into or audits of any aspect of police activities for the purpose of ascertaining whether there's police corruption or serious police misconduct or circumstances that may be conducive to both. The PCA's function is also to monitor an investigation conducted by any other person or authority in relation to any matter mentioned above, so the police corruption, etc. And these are the functions of the PCA. So the PCA can be monitoring internal police investigations. So recently, where you had the Professional Standards Bureau, which is the equivalent of the Internal Affairs Division in the police service, looking into certain activities of other police officers, the PCA can now call upon them. The PCA has oversight over that work. The PCA can gather evidence. Their function is to gather evidence that may be used in the investigation of serious police misconduct, furnish such evidence to the Commissioner or the Commission, the Police Service Commission, for appropriate action. The PCA's function is to gather evidence that can be used in the prosecution of a police officer involved in a criminal offense and furnish such evidence to the Director of Public Prosecutions, which brings me to another point that the member before, the member for Naparima, was making. All this screaming and shouting about giving prosecutorial powers to the PCA, that is not the policy decision of this government. The Constitution, what he fails to recognize, and I accept he's not a lawyer, I'm not quite sure what he is, the member for Naparima is ignoring Section 90 of the Constitution. Section 90 of the Constitution creates this creature that is the Director of Public Prosecutions and puts him, for obvious reasons, as the only person in charge of criminal matters in the courts of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is to protect against anybody interfering in criminal prosecution of persons. Because you see, the end result of a successful criminal prosecution can be incarceration, is taking away of persons' liberty. So the framers of the Constitution saw it fit to give that power to the DPP. And that is being completely ignored here today. But furthermore, in answer to the suggestion that the PCA should have prosecutorial powers, any person can write to the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and I know that as a fact, the PCA has done this on a number of occasions and been granted something called a fiat. So we're not hearing at all here this afternoon that if the PCA feels so strongly about work they've done, so strongly about an investigation they've conducted, so strongly about the desire to prosecute and to carry that through the court system, the criminal court system, they simply have to write to the Director of Public Prosecutions and ask for a fiat to so prosecute the matter. And they have done so on a number of occasions, and they have gone on to prosecute the matter. So let's go now to the powers of the PCA, because this is what is being completely overlooked by the previous speaker. Section 22 of the Police Complaints Authority Act says that the PCA has powers of a commission of inquiry established under the Commission of Inquiries Act, as if it were, that is to give you the ability to summon persons to ask for certain information. The authority shall also have the power to require any person within a specified time and in writing to provide any information or answer any question which the authority considers necessary in connection with any investigation which the authority is empowered to conduct under this act. What broader powers, what additional powers does the PCA require? So the PCA has been, it is this government's submission, it's this government's position that the PCA has current power, the powers they currently have are sufficient to conduct the necessary investigations they're required to do. So we come now to the bill that is here before us today, and you go to clause 3 of the bill, which is the expansion. All of the things in clause 3, or the majority, is these are amendments necessary to give effect to the decision that the PCA should have jurisdiction over SRPs and municipal police. Right? We heard a lot of talk about the PCA needing additional powers to arrest and to prosecute police officers. That is not where we are going at this current point in time. What we're here today is to just give the PCA additional necessary jurisdiction over persons who are functioning in our society today as police officers, the SRPs and municipal police. This complaint about no action by the DPP. And then there was a most ridiculous submission, Madam Speaker. We do not hear about convictions and exonerations. I want to put down a marker here today, Madam Speaker, because this false argument, this misleading proposition, completely ignores the separation of powers. And it is a dangerous, dangerous argument that's being picked up now by international bodies as well, where they keep moving the goalpost. How could any government, how could any legislature be charged with the responsibility of securing a conviction? Do the members on the opposite side, even understand that proposition? So to say that via legislation you secure a conviction is the most ridiculous, abusive, unconstitutional proposition I've ever heard. You see, this government believes in separation of powers. So all the police are required to do, investigate the crime. In this case, the PCA conduct your investigation, make your recommendations to the DPP or the Commissioner of Police or both. The DPP and the Commissioner of Police lay the charges and take the matter to court. I want the members on the other side, and in particular the lawyers on the other side, who I'm sure will get up, to explain to the population how it is they propose that convictions should be secured by A, a legislature such as us, or B, by a government that has no place in our respectful view in criminal prosecution, because that is a fearful submission being made here today. How is it that they should secure convictions? That is the job for the judiciary. That's the job for the same lawyers that every time you say anything about the lawyers, all of a sudden, certain lawyers in the Law Association wake up. They are the ones responsible for securing convictions. You could imagine, and I challenge those on the other side, Madam Speaker. Come with the amendments to secure convictions. Come with the amendments that the defense attorneys will not delay trials. Come with the amendments to show that the judiciary is not doing what they're supposed to do, instead of all the old talk and the screaming and the shouting. So we reject that outright. Right? This talk that the former speaker had about SRPs being treated like outside children and being treated badly, not paid their salaries. I remind those on the other side that the Commissioner of Police, the current Commissioner of Police, since he came into office in August 2018, that complaint hasn't been heard. Furthermore, Section 123A of the Constitution gives the Commissioner of Police and him alone, the constitutional responsibility to deal with the administration and the financial aspects of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So don't come here today as usual in an attempt to mislead the population to say it has anything to do with the government. And we have heard no complaints over the last 2.5 years about the payments of salary. And if there are, they're very quickly resolved. But there is nothing that the government does in that aspect. We do not know this was amongst the most disturbing and maybe even ridiculous propositions of the previous speaker. And I quote, "We do not know the outcome of PCA investigations which sent on." Well, the whole purpose of the new insertion of a 44A into the PCA Act is to deal with exactly that. It says the commissioner or the assistant commissioner, so it's the commissioner for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the assistant commissioner for municipal police, as the case may be, shall, mandatory, obligatory, within 3 months of the authority making a recommendation in accordance with section 44(2), provide the authority basically with an update. A written decision with reasons. So it's not only a written decision, I'm doing or I'm not doing. Provide the reasons why you're doing or you're not doing with respect to the recommendation. So we have now come here today to build in an accountability provision that when the PCA does its work and sends it forward, the police now have an obligation, including the municipal police, within a period of 3 months to update on what has taken place, and a written update on the progress of a matter. Now, it cannot be that those on the other side, but I wouldn't put it past them, are suggesting now that the DPP must come and tell the population on every occasion why it is that he or she isn't doing something with the PCA report. Because the whole purpose of that amendment I've just referred to is for the police to report to the population, to report to the PCA what they've done with it. The only other body the PCA sends it on to is the DPP. I heard some talk about the Forensic Science Center and about the DPP. Madam Speaker, through you, just to put on the table, the Forensic Science Center, the whole area of ballistics, the whole area of taking policing and the gathering of evidence into the 21st century has been taking place. Within the last month and a half, we have opened a new ballistics recovery unit up in Kamutu, state of the art. And that is to deal with the backlog with respect to ballistics, so that work is taking place. On Monday, along with the Commissioner of Police, I will launch further training into ballistic intelligence gathering. Again, that is going to help in the uptick of detections and hopefully successful prosecutions. Yesterday or 2 days ago, we launched a simulation center to train police officers in crime scene investigation. This is just what has gone on in the last month and a half. The work is taking place. The backlog is being cleared at the Forensic Science Center. For the first time, with limited resources, we trained 26 officers in ballistics. When the money was flowing and the limes were going on down at the Hyatt and the parties and that kind of thing, and the spending of the millions of dollars, why didn't they take some of that and fix these little areas? So, Madam Speaker, this bill here today is a simple one. And what it is doing, it is just bringing under the ambit of the Police Complaints Authority, the municipal police, the SRPs, is plugging some holes where before the PCA were rightly saying, look, we've done our work, we don't know what has happened with our work. So we're now calling on the police service through the Commissioner of Police and the Assistant Commissioner in charge of municipal police to just report. You have 3 months to report. We're plugging another very important hole that the Attorney General referred to that we all know about. Before the PCA Act said that you had to have in place at all times a director and a deputy director. If one or the other wasn't in place, it stopped the whole running of the organization. We're now giving 3 months that if there's no director, the deputy can do it. If there's no deputy, the director can do it. And these are the amendments that are being done here today. Coming here this afternoon, I was wondering what could the possible objections to this bill here this afternoon. And so far, we've heard none. What we've heard is, you need to add this. There should be more of that. So, Madam Speaker, what I'd like to say is thank you for the time to have made my contribution. Thank you for this very important set of amendments to the legislation. PCA, continue doing what you're doing. You have the power, you know what your functions are, and you have the support of this government to do your job independently. Thank you, Madam Speaker.